Okay, so now we're live again. So as I was just
Yeah.
talking about last week, we talked about all sorts of stuff all the way up to you going to Chicago and then abruptly leaving Chicago.
Where did I leave off? You
That was
remember?
pretty much it. You told me the story about how he your your father came home and basically said, "We're leaving," and you
Okay.
guys pretty much picked up and left that same next morning. But we didn't really go. That was pretty much where we left it. We didn't talk about anything beyond, when you went back to
Yeah.
Denver.
Okay.
Because you believe you went back straight back to Denver at that point, right?
Okay. We went back to Denver on the train. I remember the train because it on the first night on the train it got cold. This was in the fall of 1931, I believe. In the fall of 1931, I was in the second grade at school. Actually, they called it the A2 and B2. A was the upper grade and B2 was lower grade. I just want to add in one thing too. I never thought anything about this until maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, when I came across other bits of evidence that this all pointed together. Mainly the article, the most important one was an article I read about the Teamsters Union in Chicago being threatened by the gangs. But let's get out to California now. This was certainly 1931, 2 years after the Depression started in October of 1929. In all of the Depression years, as best as I can remember, my dad was never out of a job. He was working in Chicago driving the bakery truck. And then we moved back to Denver. I don't remember how long we were in Denver before we took the train to California. But I do know it was in December of 1930 we got out to California from the frozen east and Midwest of the country. We got to California. There was blue skies, bright, warm sun, and it was very comfortable. I'm trying to remember what my 7 or 8-year-old mind was doing then. I just can't remember what my thoughts were then, if I had any. Anyway, my next remembrance being enrolled in school. This was at Budlong Avenue School on the corner of 59th and Budlong Avenue. It was about 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 blocks, 5 blocks where we lived. When we got here, we somehow bedded up in Aunt Molly's house. and she lived on 61st Street between Vermont Avenue and Hoover Street. I'm a little bit vague as to what our first few nights in Los Angeles were, but we eventually rented a small one-bedroom. The best I can call it is a court, and a court in California was a string of small structures, all identical, 1 and 2 bedroom structures. They had a bedroom, front room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. And in the front room, they had had a Murphy bed there. Shirley and I got the bedroom, and my mom and dad slept in the Murphy bed. And it means each night they had to open the doors up, pull down the Murphy bed, and then put it back the next morning. I also remember being enrolled in school because an event happened there that was to have a strong imprint on my life after that. My mother, we walked to school, and she had, my mother had all my school records with her. And as she enrolled me in the assistant principal. And I remember her name was Mrs. Dunlap. And for whatever reasons, I had average grades in the A2, and for whatever reason, Mrs. Dunlap decided I should go back, finish it in the B2, in the lower B2. Now, at the time, I never thought anything about it, but in the years to come, especially in high school, when I became aware of the fact that I was a half year older to a year older than my schoolmates, that I remember those days very well. It was at first I wondered why this happened, and then I remembered when it happened, so I remembered. And another big thing about this is my mother never said a word. Now, you remember Aunt Irene, your grandma?
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. She was a sweet, wonderful woman. Everybody loved her, but she just didn't have it in her to say a sharp word to anybody. It just wasn't in her nature. What probably most mothers would have done. Oh no, you're not going to do that. There's only 6 weeks left to the end of the year. You're not going to make him go through that whole second grade again. Most mothers would have said that, and most mothers probably would have been successful, but not my mother. So as a result, instead of graduating in the summer of 1941, I graduated in the winter of 1942. So much for that. Again, it had an impact on my life.
Well, I mean, I was just trying to think about it. We will get to this in a moment, but I can imagine if you were graduated a lot earlier, being the war was going on at the time, which we're going to get into, you could have had a very different experience, potentially throughout the war and such.
Yeah. And that's coming up next.
Well, I don't want to get there. I want to hear some more about, your childhood and
You want to
stuff.
hear about my
Well,
child? Okay,
I mean, no, or just your teenage years and just different things, and like, because we're only
okay.
in second grade
No,
right
no,
now, so
no,
I want
no.
to.
My childhood uh, was very interesting. Number one, I told you that in all the depression, my dad always worked. We always had money. Uh, every every Saturday, we would go to the show. My mother would give me and Shirley. We would get 15 cents, 5 cents to buy candy or a malted milk or whatever we wanted, and 10 cents to get into the show. And, and we went to the show every Saturday. One of the reasons we would go is they would show a feature film, they would show a cartoon, then they would show a 2 or 3 reel comedy. You know what that means. A 2 or 3 reel comedy was it took 2 or 3 reels to do it, and then a serial. Now, serials were a series of pictures in which they told a story, and the story was usually an action adventure type of thing there, and it always concluded with the hero or the heroine being threatened with death, and that ended, and then you had to wait until next week to see what happened. This was to make sure that you saw all the features. There became a time in my life when I was beginning to realize what money was. If I asked my mother for a penny to buy some candy, she gave it to me. You go into the they had candy stores then. You go into the candy stores for a penny. You could buy a licorice. I forget what they called. They called them whips, I think. A long licorice wood, or you could buy the little licorice cigar. They had paper rolls in which they had some type of a sugar candy that would drop on the paper roll and harden. There was 3 or 4 across, and then a penny would buy you a strip, maybe 10, 12, 13 inches long, and you would put them up to your mouth and pick off the candy with your teeth. And they came in different flavors. You could buy a sucker or Tootsie Roll. You buy a Tootsie Roll, small Tootsie Roll for a penny. Okay, then let's move on from there.
I have a question. I have more questions for you,
Any
actually,
questions?
related to this. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because this is all a period in life before I was around, so I didn't experience. So did your parents go with you guys to the movies, or was it just you and Shirley most of the
What?
time that would go? Was it
No.
mainly
We
just
would go
you?
by ourselves. No,
Okay.
this was in the show started at 1:00 or just right afternoon. We would go by ourselves, and the show would last 2.5 or 3 hours. And
It's a nice way of entertaining you.
all the kids in the neighborhood went to the show.
So it was a kid oriented film. It was a kid oriented film, or the reels and
yeah, I suppose so. But they had one every Saturday. I don't suppose some were probably more oriented toward kids than others. But in any event, also the movies seldom lasted more than an hour and a quarter or an hour and a half. They were relatively short when you compare them to the 2.5 and 3 hour pictures we see today.
Do you remember the theater that you used to go to?
Yeah, the Temple's Theater.
What was the theater
It
name?
was on,
What was it?
It was on Vermont between 56th and 57th Street. It was maybe 4 blocks from the house. They on the as you went north on Vermont towards town, the on the next big street that went east and west, Vermont was north and south, was Slauson. And then on the north, check that out, on the southeast corner of Slauson, there was a big Sears Roebuck store. On the north side of the street going, it was like a shopping center, except all the stores were on the street. There was no place to park. The streets, the parking was usually taken up from people that were shopping because they had a Sears. Then on the north side, they had a 5 and dime store called Crest. And then on the other side, they had some competition. There were 2 5 and dime stores on the other side. That would be the south side of the street. One was Newberry's, and I forget what the third one was. And a 5 and dime store means most of the items they had on sale there were primarily priced at 5 and 10 cents, but they had other items at 19 cents. Everything seemed to have a 9 on the end of it. 19 cents, 29 cents. Sometimes the bigger things, they get up to 39 and 49 cents. Yeah. And then on one corner, on the southeast corner of Vermont and 58th Street, this was 1 block south of Slauson. There was a thrifty drugstore, which I would go in there for a few pennies. I can buy a small bag full of candy. They always seem to have wholesale candy at thrifty drugstores. Then across this street on the south side, there was a Pep Boy store. We'll talk more about that later. There was a Pep Boy store, and then a bunch of just general merchandising shops on the south side, and it was more or less duplicated on the north side of the street, going towards 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd. And there was no 63rd Street. Where 63rd Street should be was a street called Gage Avenue. So that was the layout of the school. Then as you went further south on Vermont towards 61st, 62nd Street, there was junior high school. John Muir Junior High School occupied a good part of the frontage between 58th and 59th Street on Vermont. Okay, going west from there, the next street would have been Budlong, and Budlong on the let me see, the east side of Budlong, they had Budlong Elementary School. So Budlong and John Muir occupied almost the whole block, the east and the west side of the block, and the north side of the block that was running east and west. Between the elementary school and the high school, they had a small plot of land in which they had John Muir had a farming thing. You could grow things in the ground there, and they had a couple of small buildings. Actually, what they were framed with 2x4s, and they were covered with canvas like a tent. I have no explanation why it was built as a temporary building, and I was to see more of that later. Any questions so far?
Do you think spatially when you think about stuff? People think about things different ways, but do you think spatially when you're thinking about these stories and stuff? Because I ask you because I'm this way, and maybe I get it from you, but I often think about things as like where they are, especially in relation to other things. And I have an ability to remember things that way. Like Anna always finds it, interesting the way that I do. She doesn't do that at all, but that's kind of the way I do it. And I get the sense that you kind of think that way, like you're imagining, or the way you're laying out the description of your neighborhood is very describing the, kind of the locations around you.
Okay.
I don't know. I was just curious if that's the way, if you think like that.
It's hard for me to evaluate myself, I guess. But what you are saying is probably right. So I'm enrolled in school in the second grade in the B2, but at the time it has no impact on me. I'm just in school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are living in this court, which is on the same street as Aunt Molly's street. She lived just off of Vermont.
And Aunt Molly, just because my memory is faulty.
This was on 62nd Street.
Wait, Aunt Molly is your father's sister?
Yes.
Okay, that's I'm just trying to read. I'm remembering because I don't have notes for all the people.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask
Okay.
you just over again.
My father's sister. She was married to a guy named George Harmelin, and they came out to California because of a business opportunity. And what the business opportunity was to open their own cleaning and dry clean shop, and that's what they were doing there. In this probably happened earlier in the year. I'm not sure. That's how they got to California. I have no idea what it was, how they made a connection in California from Denver. Unfortunately, now the people that can tell me are no longer with us. But in any event, while they were in the process of opening up the dry cleaning shop, Aunt Molly got a job in a regional office of the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company there as a secretary. My Aunt Molly was really sharp in numbers and things like that. So is my dad, because we're going to talk more about that as we go on. Also, Uncle Dewey also was one smart guy. If these people, if they had been born later, they all would have gone to college and would have gone somewhere. I'm sure of it. There was another sister that's Aunt Seal. And Aunt Seal was a talented typist. And at one time they had some type of typing competition, and for the whole state of Colorado, and Aunt Seal won the champion. It's the fastest typist in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah. So there
That's not me.
there was some latent business opportunities in all of these brothers and sisters. Where was I? Do you remember?
You might need to turn on a light in your room, actually. You're starting to get dark.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any lights in your...
Okay. I have one light right there. Let me turn. It's actually a lamp. And yeah, it's getting dark outside here.
Just so we can see you good. You're pretty good, but there we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think that looks yeah, we can that'll be great.
Okay.
So you got to California, you're living on the courtyard or in the one bedroom,
okay.
Your Aunt Molly.
We're living in this court, and we moved a lot, so we rented another court and another one that was back on 61st Street. Aunt Molly lived on 62nd, so this was one block over. And so we this is the court that I was telling you had they were just one bedroom courts. They might have had some that had two bedrooms, I don't know. Also, the courts didn't go, you entered on 61st, but you couldn't go through on 60th because as you went down this long sidewalk, there were 1, 2, 3, 4. There were probably 5 or 6 courts on each side of the walk, a total of 10 small buildings. Then at the far end was a residence, and this was where the owner of the court lived. Then also to one side there was a long line, maybe 10 garages. So each building had a garage out there, and the access was through an alley. It wasn't directly off the street, so you had to go. There was an alley paralleling Vermont Avenue, and then halfway through the building at right angles, you would go into the alley. Then you would turn east to go towards the entrance to where the garages were. We lived there for a year or two or something like that, and for whatever reason, my dad became acquainted with other agents in the insurance company there. What he did as an insurance agent, his job had 2 functions. One was to collect premiums. Now, back in those days, you sold people insurance. It was a tough sell trying to sell insurance during the Depression. So how did they do it? They had weekly collections. which my dad would have a route. He would go and he would collect a premium from the people, and it would be anywhere from a few cents. Very seldom went up more than 30 or 40 cents. And I remember he would come home at night. He had a canvas bag of money he would put on the table, and then he would have to go through his route book, and he had to tabulate. Let me go back for a minute. When he would collect a premium, he would write it down in his book and give the policy holder a receipt and put the money in this white canvas bag. Then I remember they didn't have, the zippers were just coming into practice, and they were magical, where you could zipper up the front of your sweater or something. I'm not sure they got to the fly of our pants or not by then. I seem to remember buttons then, but whatever. So he would come home and he would have to add all of these numbers up there. And then when that was done, he had to count the money. Now, when you have to count $20 or $30 or whatever it was that he collected during the day, it was all in change. The majority of the money was in pennies. There were nickels and dimes and maybe an occasional quarter. But what had to happen is the money he brought home had to be the same as the money that was in the books. And he did this every night coming home. And I had a sense that he felt it was work he wasn't getting paid for. Anyway, that's how it was. He met this other insurance agent. His name was Harry Stepner. Harry Stepner was married to a gal named Isla Stepner. I don't remember what her maiden name was, but they had a son, Harry Jr., who was 2 months younger than me. So as a result, Harry Jr. and I hit it off real good. We both had seemed to have the same thoughts, and we liked one another. And it got to the point that maybe once a month or something like that, I would go out to, they lived in a place called Bell, California. And for whatever reason, we moved out of our little bungalow, a little courtyard bungalow, into a small 2-bedroom house in Bell, California. So now I only lived 2 blocks or a block and a half away from Harry Jr. And we literally grew up together.
Before we get into that story, I just wanted to show you one thing, because I've been playing around here. Let's see if I can. Hold on. This isn't working. I was curious about your the courtyard thing, the court you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, because I'm kind of familiar with them, because I remember seeing them around in San Diego and stuff. So this is nearby where you're talking about. This is John Muir Middle School, and here's 60th and 61st Street.
Okay.
Most of the courts have been demolished, but I was cruising around.
East and west and north. south is south down.
Yeah, south is down. Where this is LA.
Okay, go to Vermont and Slauson.
Well, I was gonna. Okay, I was gonna show you one that I found. There's Slauson, and this is
Okay, that's Vermont
is
you're
Vermont.
on now. Okay, go south, down south
Yeah,
to 61st Street, West 60th.
that's right here.
Yeah.
61st is here, and then it's also continues here.
61st. Okay, 61st. Okay, we next up. This is Hoover. Where's
This is who? No, sorry. Hoover is.
there?
Are you
There's
talking
Hoover.
about?
Yeah, there's Hoover. 61st Street. Okay, you. Oh, Menlo. Okay, now I remember Menlo. Okay, 61st Street. Okay, let's go to 62nd Street. Can you zoom on all? Is that as hard as you can zoom?
I can zoom as far as you want, but you
Okay,
got. I just
okay.
need to know where.
Okay, let's go to 62nd Street in Vermont and zoom in real close.
62nd
Move.
and Vermont.
Okay.
That's what.
Okay,
It's
now
this,
okay.
It's this
Move,
intersection.
move down so you come to 62nd Street. Move down.
Okay.
No, you're moving up.
Well, now I'm at Cage.
Move down. Okay, where
Oh, 62nd Street, not place.
Oh,
My bad.
62nd. There's also 62nd Place.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, move in more. Move in more. Okay. 60. Oh, okay. That's all changed. Oh my. Oh
yeah, but
my. That okay. Everything's gone. Everything is gone.
Well, I was going to point out that there is one of these. If you look at this location, this is just to the east of Vermont. There's a court. I'm pretty sure that this is probably what you were referring to.
Okay.
This stretch of buildings here.
Move down just a little bit. Move down. No, not in. Move down just a little more. Hold it right there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's the court. This is 61st. Okay. Now,
it's between 61st and 62nd.
You see the sign that says 61st Street? In the middle of the picture, 61st Street. There's 61st Street on the left. There's 61st Street on the right, and in the middle, right to the left of the court. That's the court we used to live in. That's it.
Okay.
And, okay. Now the house.
It might not be. It does.
That's.
I can drop us down into that location there.
Oh, okay.
This is. It looks like most of them are gone, but there is a.
Okay.
This is
there's
court.
Okay. It.
This is that court that I was just looking above.
Oh my. No. Okay. Those. Okay. Oh, this is on 61st Street. Oh my, it's it.
This is.
Oh, okay.
You think that this is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's still there. It's still there. Move to the right or move to the left. To the left. Okay, the house on the right side you saw. The house on the right side you saw.
You mean this? Is it this one?
No. Move to the left. Okay. Now
move like this way. Move down this street.
No, it's the wrong way. The other way. To the house on the other side.
My other left.
The house on the other side. Okay. Move down. Okay. That's. Oh my! It's still there. Oh. Okay. The house with the 9. Zoom into the address on the White House there. Okay.
On this address.
Okay, that house right there. 939.
938.
Oh, Oh, I got to take a picture of that. I got to take a picture of that. We
Well,
lived
I
in
can
that
I,
house.
you lived in
Yeah,
this house?
that White House there.
Oh,
That's
really?
yeah, yeah. Okay. But- Okay, I have to take a picture of that. Oh,
So you didn't. So did you live in the court, or did you live in this house, or was this a part of the court, as you refer to it?
okay. Well, no, we moved in this house later, years later. But
Oh, okay.
okay, let 9:39. Oh, it looks so tiny now, and it seems so big then. That that house, that house is 100 years old.
Uh-huh.
That house is 100 years old. Okay, move back to the court.
Okay.
There's the court. Okay, the owner of the court was a couple named Paisley that were from uh, Wyoming, and they apparently made a lot of money from cattle. I mean, what else would Wyoming have in the early 1930s? Apparently, there many different. Okay, 824. We lived within the court. This court runs all the way through to the other street.
Yes, that's what
It runs all the
showed
way
from the.
through to the other street. There on the left, there's the line of garages that are still there. This building, the Paisleys lived upstairs in that, what you call it. This was all constructed after we moved in, because none of this faced. This is 61st Street right here.
We're on 61st.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And
I can show you what it looks like from 62nd.
they had access into the garages through the driveway you see under the arch there. There's another exit in which cars went down the middle of the court to the other alley towards Vermont Avenue. Yeah. Oh my! It looks like it's just been built. Okay, that's 61st Street looking east towards Hoover. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
it's. I mean, I was scanning
Okay,
and I was
go-
scanning this area,
Go
and there's
back
not
to
too
the
many
house.
of these courts
Go
left.
back to the house there. You see where that red car is parked? Well, I have a picture of my car parked in. No, not the red car. 939. Where that white car is
938.
is where my car was parked, and I took the picture of it. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. I'm
Well, very cool.
yeah, I'm pretty well trained.
That's fine. This is fun for.
There, there's the court, but on.
This is the other side. This is from 62nd.
Yeah, that's on 62nd Street. Okay, go to the left. No, move the other way. Go. See, move down the other way towards the alley. There's an alley down. Move down on 62nd Street. Keep going. Can you keep going? Okay. Hold it right there.
Is this the alley?
Okay. That's towards Vermont. Okay, that house right there. Now, okay, move to the right just a little bit. Either you see those two houses right there. Well, move to a little more now. Move back a little bit. I want to see what the lawn looks like. I see that where that tree is. Oh, okay. The houses are still there. That house right there, that's a house my Aunt Molly lived in.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay.
Oh, cool.
Okay, the trees were not there. The trees were not there at that time. The the house on the right is the one Aunt Molly and the Harmons lived in. This is on 62nd Street. The courts
Mhm.
are further down to your right. The little
Yeah,
thing
they're
the
right
little
here.
thing you see in front there was not there.
The fence.
Okay,
The
they rented that house, and they played. Dick, Stan, and Betty would play in front, and what happened is the landlord was always bitching about their they're playing on the front lawn and they were killing the lawn. So one day he dug up the lawn there, and he put in a concrete lawn. And what he did, he dyed the concrete a deep green and put it in there. And at first it didn't look too bad, but the dye he put in faded out. And so at the end of a few months, maybe a year or something like that, it was all white. Oh yeah. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Move move towards Vermont to your left. Okay, the
Okay.
garage there. Okay, move down. Okay, you're facing Vermont now. Move toward. Okay, there. Oh, okay. The building. Okay, that was a drive-in garage. Okay, where you see all the cars parked there,
Uh-huh.
that was a gas station.
Ah,
Okay, there was a roof over it, and they had maybe 4 to 6 pumps in the gas station, and this and and the garage is still there. It was a repair garage, and I spend a lot of my time there.
well, we'll
Okay,
have to learn more
okay,
about that. If
okay.
you're
This
worn out, we can take a we can call it a
okay.
session if you
Now
want,
now
or if you want, we can cruise around your neighborhood if you
okay.
want.
909 West Six. That's Vermont Avenue. We're we're looking. Is that looking north on Vermont?
We are looking north right now.
Okay, go on up a bit because that's move towards Slauson Avenue. I should be able to see.
You want to go up to Slauson?
Yeah, yeah. Go, go up Vermont north. Move on Vermont north. Okay,
We're
hold it.
traveling.
Okay,
We're just about to Slauson.
we're just about coming to Slauson. Okay, a lot of buildings have been torn down apparently. There's okay. Is that Slauson?
This is Slauson.
Okay, okay, turns to the okay, the Sears building is would have been right there. That's Slauson facing east, right?
Yep.
And Vermont is facing south. And
We're
that's
facing north.
okay. There's a lot of buildings that are gone. Okay,
And then this is west.
okay, on this corner of this is Vermont and Slauson. On this corner right there, there was a Bank of America right there. That's gone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All the store buildings. You remember I told you about Crest and Newberry's? That's where they were. That's all
Got
gone.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm pretty well drained.
It has been.
Yeah.
I totally understand. Let's pick it up again.
Yeah, this is a time
Next
trip.
time.
This is a time trip for me. Okay, let's go another week.
Well, we'll pick it up next week. We have to. I want to hear more about Harry Jr.
Yeah, there's
because I don't know
more
anything about.
there's more about Harry Jr. to come.
So we'll get there. It's just a little distraction, but I'm amazed that it was actually the same court that I kind of spotted. That is the one that you were living in.
Okay, now there.
But yeah.
On the right there's a school. Okay, there's Slauson Avenue. I presume the one down the middle here is Vermont, am I right?
This is Vermont, and this is Hoover.
Oh, gee. West 60th Street. Super Vermont, Lawson shopping area. Yeah, August Hawkins High School. What happened to John Muir High? Oh, yeah, John Muir Middle School is right there. Okay, move
Right here.
that to okay.
Budlong
There's
Avenue
Budlong
Elementary School.
and John Muir. Remember, I told you how they occupied the same block. Yeah,
Yeah, this was your elementary school for a while,
that's the
at
elementary
least, right?
school I went to. Yeah. Wow,
Very cool.
very cool. Okay, let's
Let's give you a rest.
give me a rest, and
It's probably almost dinner time too.
it's dinner time, and we'll do this next week. Thanks,
Well,
thanks,
absolutely.
Ryan. You're
no. Oops. Let's see. There we go.
We,
Okay, now we got your face again.
we also lived at two other locations in that area. One was on 57th Street, and the other one was further south on 57th to 67th Street. We were living on 67th Street in 1933 when the earthquake hit, and we'll come to more of that on our
Okay.
next
Journey.
Yeah, boy,
Yeah.
you did magic, and you sent me on a time trip. You sent me
Oh,
on
good. We'll continue doing that then.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Have a good evening. We'll pick this up again later on.
Yes, yeah. Express my love to the kids and Anna.
Will do.
I miss you, and I miss them. Okay,
I
bye.
miss you too. Bye.